we also were able to install Git on our machines, each and every one of us. We were also able to create GitHub accounts. And after the installation of Git, we were also able to configure our Git usernames, our Git email, and then we were able to see about Git help, which basically shows you a list of all the commands in case you are stuck with Git and would like to reference somewhere. If you type Git help, you will be able to see that. We then moved from that and we went to the basics of the command line interface. We were able to work with the command line interface. We were also able to differentiate between graphical user interface or GUI with the CLI, the command line interface. And we were able to grasp the basics of the command line interface, whereby we were able to all work with the command line because it's something we are going to be using every now and then. So it was essential for us to cover the basics of the command line. Then we were able to go to the basics of Git, whereby we were able to see the basic Git commands. These are the Git commands that we are going to be interacting with every now and then. So it is essential to make sure you have them on your fingertips, because these basic Git commands are the commands that you are going to be using every now and then. Some of the commands were git init, we had git clone, we saw how to add files to the staging area, we saw how to commit, how to push our changes, how to check our logs, how to check the status. We were also able to see things like forking, Git, and so forth. So today, among the other advanced concepts that we are going to be covering, we are also going to be talking about Git branches, branching. We'll also see what a branch is. We'll see how to create these branches practically. We'll also have a look at how to push a branch to your remote repository. We'll see how to pull the branches, how to delete a branch if you're not working with it anymore. You can delete the local and the remote branches. We're also able to see, we'll also be able to see today about merging branches, because that is also the essence of working with Git, where after you've done your changes, they need to be part of one branch, the main branch that will go into production. So we'll also have a look at how to merge branches. We'll also have a look at something like reverting with Git. We'll have a look at that today. So before we go into that, I'd like for us to, first of all, have an understanding of what a branch is. So the first question we're going to be answering is, what is a branch in Git? So essentially, with branches in Git, it's simply just a chain of commits. So a chain of commits that branch off from the main line or the development branch. So let me Google. I want us to see an image. So if I just say git branch, okay, there is such an image. So essentially, when working with Git, we have what we call the main branch or the master branch. So depending on which remote repository you're working with, you will have a different master or main. It will appear differently on your machine. So this is the main branch. This is where everything stems from. This is what you are working on. So this is the chain of whatever you're working on. So from this chain of whatever you're working on, if you decide I want to work on something separately without affecting what I am currently working on, what you do is you create a branch. So this branch will have the same code as what is on your main branch. But now on this branch, you can add other things. You can experiment, you can add, you can remove without affecting your main branch or the main or whatever you're working on. So that is the essence of working with separate branches, whereby you can do such things. You can experiment, you can add new features, you can remove, and so forth. For instance, when working with groups or different companies, you will have things like parallel development, whereby you have different teams. So each of these different teams is working on something separately. Some of them are working on new features. Some of them are working on some of them are working on bugs that they are fixing. So you want to have different branches so that you can all work on these different things simultaneously, so that you can work on these different branches simultaneously. Also, individually, you may want to work on some of your changes separately. So we've seen we have what we call the main branch. So this starts from when you create this repository. So this main branch begins from when you create this repository or when you start tracking your changes. And with each commit that you make, because this branch or these branches are a chain of commits, it continues to build up. So if we make commit B here today, it continues to build our branch. If we make commit C here today, it continues to build our branch. Now, when we want to continue with our branch, but we want to work on something experimental, a feature or something we are not sure of, but we don't want this to affect up to where we have reached. Let's say we have reached this point C, and so far we like what we have done, but we want to try something else, but we don't want to change that point C yet until we see what we are working on. Yes, whatever you're working on is okay. Now we can go back to it. So what we do is we create a branch. Okay, so we create a branch. So this branch will have everything from point A to point C. But now we can now add our own things here. We can add point D here. We can point E here. You see, these are different commits. So we can add our commits as we go on. You see, that is the essence of having these branches. So if you are making isolated changes, let's say I'm experimenting with something, but up to where I had reached, I like it so far and it works. I don't want to break my code. So I can create a branch. Also, another use case is if you're working with different teams. So for instance, we have different groups here or different teams that we are working here together. Let's say we decide we want to work on a project together, all of us, and we create maybe the relevant things, the dependencies, the coding environment up to point C. And now we decide now we want to add different features. And now we want to give each team something different to work on. So for instance, we say we want Tech Titans to work on feature A. So they'll create their branch from here and continue working on feature A. Then we say we want IT Fusion to also work on feature B. We can tell them to create their own branch here and work on feature B. So up to this point, see where we had reached, they all have the same thing. Now, IT Fusion, who we have told to work on feature B, they are fast. Let's say they are fast. They have been able to complete this feature B before the Tech Titans have completed the feature A. So you will find that the branch that this group that was working on feature B has is ahead of whatever the main branch has and whatever the branch that feature A has. We'll look into that slowly, don't worry. We will dive deeper into that. Another reason for using this branching is for version control, testing these new features and so forth and so forth. So we use this version control. So we've said that a branch is a separate development path. So we've seen like a branch in Git, you create a new version of the same project, allowing you to work on different features or experiment without affecting the main code. We've also seen that it gives you that isolation whereby whatever changes I make there won't affect the main code. So for instance, we all use WhatsApp, and every day WhatsApp is creating new features, adding new features that they are working on. So we'll use them as an example. We say they have several branches, which is how the typical development works. So we say they have the main branch. That the main branch is the one that is in production. That is the branch that we are using, and that is the branch that we are seeing. So this is the branch that they have. This is the branch that they have been working on since they started, in whatever year they started up to now. So this is the main branch. I'll just say M. This is the main branch. And then they are adding new features. So let's say they want to add a feature for communities. So instead of adding the feature here for communities here, they'll just create a branch here and work on this feature called communities. So while they're working on this feature called communities, the main branch or what is in production has not been taken offline, has not been affected, and you guys are still continuing using the same things until they are working on this new branch. So essentially that is how it works. So whenever they are satisfied with these changes, they will merge them back to the main branch, and then it will continue like that and so forth and so forth. So that is what branches are. The next question we're going to be tackling today is creating branches. So I'll open my terminal here on my desktop, and then I want to work with a live project so that it's much more practical, and that we'll all be able to see the changes that I want to see. So these ones you know. So for now, these ones you all know. So I created a repository on my GitHub account. On this repository, I had called it ARO. It's just an example repository. So far, it has nothing, the initial commits. So I have cloned this repository to my local, my machine, and I want us to start working on it I want us to start working on it. These ones I just have to, because I have multiple accounts. So for that, up to there, leave it up to there. So let me open VS Code. We see this repository that I have cloned. So this is the repository that I have cloned. As you can see, it is just the same as what I have on GitHub. Just has two files, a gitignore and a license. Those are the files that are here, a gitignore and the license. So before we create these branches, we need first to learn how to check the branches. For you to be able to create, you need to know what branch you are on, the difference between these branches, and so forth and so forth. So usually, I hope up to there we are okay, first of all, that I have not confused anyone with the many jargons that I have said. And in case you are left behind, you can unmute and we can work on that together. So I want us to see how to check on these branches. So the first command for today will be git branch. Simply just git branch. Git branch. Like that. So this is the first command of today, git branch. So what essentially git branch does is it lists all the branches in your repository. It checks how many branches you have and it will list them for you. So when you type git branch on your terminal and you click on enter, it will say, for instance, mine is saying main, which means I only have the main branch. This reminds me of something. You remember when you were installing Git, there was a point I told you that there's one thing you need to alter and make sure that it stays the same, is whereby you are selecting for main to be your default branch. What we meant when we were doing that is that, for instance, on the remote repository that we are working on, Git, whenever we create a new repository, you will see something. Something. Is it that says that by default your repository will have main as its default branch. Let's just create so that we see whatever I want to say. So it's not showing that part. But by default, when you create a repository, you will have main. If you're working with GitHub or most of this cloud repository, you will have main as your default branch. And that is, if you open Git bash, you will see at the end here, it writes for you main, because main is the default branch that is supposed to be there. If yours is writing something else, you can say, is there anyone who's is writing something else apart from main? Okay, so I'll assume you all have main. Okay, so back to VS Code. So that is the first command for today, is git branch, and this is the command that we will be using to. This is the command that we will be using to check our list all our branches. So it's git branch, and this is the first command of today. This is the command that we will be using to list all the branches in our repository. So after being able to list all the branches in your repository, you want to learn how to create branches. And as we've seen, when you type git branch, it shows main. And we have we had installed our extensions on VS Code. And with this extension that we installed, when you look at this navbar at the bottom, you can see at the corner here, it writes main, showing that we are now in our default branch, the main branch. That is the second way of checking on which branch you are on. So if you have opened VS Code, you can see here, it will write for you whatever branch you are on. So for us, the branch that we are on by default is main branch. So the second step after learning how to check for branches, Git branch, is learning how to create new branches. So the main branch, as we said, is the branch that you'll be working on. But if you want to do other things, if you want to add new features, work with the different teams, you have to create a different branch. So we are going to see how to create different branches. So the first and the simplest way to create a new branch is to type git branch, then the name of the branch that you are creating. So for instance, let me create a branch called fix. So I'm creating, so git branch, then the name of the branch that you are creating. So this one is to list all branches in repo. Now we want to create a new branch. So we use git branch, then the branch name. So this creates a new branch. So this branch name, you can put whatever name you want. You can put even your name. You can put whatever name you want, depending on whatever you are doing. And this will create a new branch with this specified name. So whatever name you create, you type here is the name that it will create the branch with. So for instance, when we checked git branch, we saw that I only had a branch called main. So now let's create a branch called fix. And when I click on enter, it goes just to the next line. So I want to type git branch again. We see how many branches now I have. And you can see it now shows that I have two branches, a branch called fix and a branch called main. And now you see something interesting is happening here. You can see there is an asterisk or a star at the beginning here. And you can also see it here. So what this star or this asterisk means, it means that it shows that is the current branch that you are on. You can also see it shows different colors between main and fix. You can see fix is gray and main is orange. So that is also will show you the difference between the branches that you are in. So we are now in the main branch and we've created a branch called fix. So that is how you create a branch. That is one of the ways to create a branch, and it's the simplest. It's the simplest, but there are many other more ways to create a new branch. This is the simplest, and I don't want us to be confused with many more. So for now, let's just go with this one. Git branch, then the name of the branch, and then that creates the branch that we want. So as we've seen, to create a new branch, that is how we do. How do we change to this new branch? That is what we want to see. Now here we have several ways of how to change to this new branch. So for instance, if I say git branch, we have two branches. I want to go to the branch called how do I switch to go to the branch called fix? There are many ways. So the first way is to use a command called git checkout. So we have a command called git checkout. Git checkout. So this command switches to a branch. So when we type it, we type git checkout, then the branch name that we want to go. Then the branch name that we want to switch to. So for instance, we want to switch to the branch called fix. We say git checkout fix, like that. So git checkout fix. Now this is the branch name here. So we want to switch to that branch. So if we type git checkout fix, you'll see it writes for you a statement here which says switch to a branch called fix. I hope you can all see that. Oh, okay. You can see what it's writing up here. Switch to a branch called fix. So we've been able to switch to a branch called fix. So that is the first command, git checkout. That is one of the ways to switch to a branch. The second way is to use something called git switch. So the second way to switch to a branch is just to use the name git switch, and then you type the branch name. The same way with the checkout, you type the branch name, and then this will also switch to that branch. So whichever one you find comfortable of these two, you can use, they both work. So now if I type git branch, okay. If I type git branch, you can see it now, the asterisk or the star has gone now to fix, and fix is color green compared to before where it was main. I hope you can see the difference now. Now the second command we've said is git switch. Now you want to switch back to main. So I type git switch, then I type main, the name of this other branch that I want to switch to. So git switch, then main. And now you can see it says switched to branch main, and your branch is up to date with the origin. That second line, for now, just leave it like that. But I want you to focus on the first sentence, switch to branch main. So we've used git switch, and we've also used git checkout, and you've seen they are switching. You can see switch to fix, switch to. So either of these two commands can be used to switch branches. So you can either use git switch or git checkout, whichever one you find favorable for you. Another way to switch branches, now this is using the GUI or the graphical user interface. This is one of the options. So you see at the corner here, before, if you are able to install the extensions on Git, there's something that will be appearing down here. This is something that will appearing down here will be showing you which branch you are on. So for now, we are on the branch fix. If you want to switch out typing these commands, I click here on fix, and then it brings something up here. I hope you can all see it. It brings something which is the current branch. There's something here written branches at the end that shows that that is the current branch that I'm on. It is to main. You can see here now, it has switched me to the main branch. That is the third way to switch branches. I hope up to there we are together and I have not left anyone behind. Up to there we are together. Yes? Up to there we are together, or I'm speaking to my.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've seen how to check the branches, and we've seen how to switch branches. I want to show you another. Jude is saying he can't see my screen. Okay, let me switch to something else. A minute. To a different connection. I hope you can hear. You can still hear me. Now sharing my screen again. I hope it's visible and you all can see it. Okay, so far we have been able to see list all branches. We have also been able to create a new branch, and we've been able to switch to a new branch. And we've seen 3 different ways to switch to this new branch. I want also now to give you a shortcut. You know, now for you create a branch, you switch to it. There is a shorter way where you can do both at once. So you create a new branch and you switch to it at once instead of creating a new branch, then switching it. Those are 2 different commands. So now we are going to see a command that creates, it creates this new branch and then it switches to it. So we want to create a new branch the same way we've done with git branch here, and we want to switch to it the same way we've done with these 2 commands that I've shown you here. So for this command that we're going to be using, we're going to be using git checkout, then flag B. This flag B stands for branch. So it's creating a new branch and then the branch name that we want to create. So we can say, let me call this branch my name, like that. So this, or I'll do it practically. So here we say branch name. So git checkout flag B, which stands for branch, and then the branch name. So this command, what this command does is it creates a new branch and then it switches to that branch. Instead of you having to create a branch and then switch to it, this one command does this all for you. So we are going to have a look at it experimentally. So if we say git branch, you see we have two branches. We have a branch called fix and a branch called main. So we want to create a third branch and switch to it. So we say git checkout space dash b, and then the name of this branch. I'll call mine Bobby. So git checkout, then space, then flag b, then the name of the branch that you want to create and switch to. So git checkout flag b, then the name of your branch. And you can see it will tell you switch to a new branch called like that. So if we say git branch, you see now we have 3 new branches, and the asterisk or the star and the color green shows that we're in the current branch called Bobby, which is the new branch that we have created. So instead of having to use this, then this, you can use just this one command and it will do all of that. So that is the first that can do that. There's also a second one, because here we had two options. There's also a second command that can do the same as the first command. So this second command is git switch. So we have git switch. Now, instead of saying flag B, we'll say flag C. So this dash is called a flag. So flag C, and then the branch that we want, the branch name of the branch that we have. And then the name of the branch that we have. So this will also create a new branch and switch to it. Instead of us creating this branch and then switching with it using this command, this one command will do this and this second command at once. So we are going to experiment with it also. So I'll call the other branch development. So git, let me clear up my screen. So git switch, okay, then we say flag C, okay, space flag C, then the name of this branch. I'll call mine development. So git switch flag C, then development. And you can see it will tell you switched to a new branch called development. So that is what that command does. That is the second command that creates and switches. So instead of saying git branch, then your branch name, then git switch, then your branch name, you can use git switch flag C, then your branch name, and this will create a branch and switch to it. Or instead of saying git branch, then your branch name, then git checkout to that branch name, you just say git checkout flag B, then your branch name, and it will switch to that branch. So those are the ways to create a new branch and switch to it. Up to there, I hope we are together. I hope, Jude, you can now see the screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So up to there, I hope we are together. So we've been able to see how to create a branch. We've seen using the git branch command to create a new branch. We've seen using the git checkout to switch to that branch. And we'll see the rest as we continue. So up to there, I hope we are together. Okay, I want us to now go to pushing these branches that we are working on. So now here we have several branches. Let's see which and which we have. I want us to do something small. So git branch, to see which branches we have. We're in development. Okay, so let's make some changes here. No, let's go first back to main. So git switch. You can use either, whichever one works for you. We've seen how to switch branches, and I want us to, we did some introduction to HTML in the last class. So I want us to create a boilerplate for HTML, index.html. So now we have a boilerplate for HTML. I hope it's still visible. We have the boilerplate for HTML. I want us to do, we've seen how to create branches and to switch to these branches. I want us to do a small exercise that is going to make this knowledge a bit, to stick much more. So I want us to create a small a website or a web app or something just small with HTML. And I want us to use different branches so that we see. So I will use a story to do this example. So let's say, what can we say? What can we say? Let's use dogs. Let's say you are a group of friends and you all have dogs or you all love dogs, and you decide to create something to showcase your hobby or this passion or this love for dogs. So I want us to create, let's say I'm the one who came up with the idea. I am person X. I have come up with this idea to create a website, maybe for selling dogs or for adopting these dogs or pets and so forth. So I'm in the main branch. So this is the main branch. So I'm the person who's starting this idea. So we create a website. Let's call it Adopt Pet. Something like that. We don't want a lot of things here. And then we want to create a H1 here. And then we say our animal companion or something like that. Or say, we love animals. Something like that. And then now we create a paragraph. Don't worry about if you're not familiar with HTML, the rest will cover on as we continue. So we here we say eventually we will put photos of animals here, something like that. And then we want this website to maybe have a footer. So we say footer, and this footer, we say copyright 2025. We call it Adopt a Pet. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Let's have a look. We see how it looks first. This is just a simple sketch. Okay, so this is how it looks. It's okay, enough for now. So let's say I just created something like that. I have saved my file. I have autosave automatically. And I push this change to my GitHub account. Okay, so the command that we had covered. So git, first of all, we see what changes are there. Git status. So we have an index.html. So we can add the whole file or just this one alone. So git add index.html. Okay. Then we git commit. We say it's our initial commit. We did this before, so up to here, I hope we are all together. And then we push git push to GitHub. Okay, we've pushed it to my GitHub account. So let's see if the changes will reflect here. Fresh. Okay, so we can see the file, the index.html is here. And so far, we only have the main branch here. Is it taking this long? Load. Oh, it has loaded. So far, we have this 1 minute ago. So we have this initial commit that we've added here. And so far, we have one branch here. Also, as you can see, we have one branch here, but locally, we have our branches here locally. So if we say git branch, you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 branches locally, but we only have one branch on GitHub. You can see, I hope you can all see, it shows that we have only one branch on GitHub, but you've seen we have created 4 different branches. So we have 4 different branches locally. So I want us to see how to check. We wanted to see how to push branches to GitHub. That was what we were covering next, how to push a branch to GitHub. So this is what we've done on the main account. So that one will go seamlessly. Let's now switch to Fix. So Git, want to switch to a branch, and first of all, make some, let's create a new branch. So Git checkout flag B, then we create a new branch called feature. So we want to add something to whatever we have already worked on. We want to add something to this index.html. So we create a new branch called feature. So in this branch called feature, you can see we've switched to that branch called feature. We decided that now we want to add a few things to this file of ours, this HTML file of ours. We decide that we want to have a link, a navbar link to the home. We'll link to CSS later. So for now, we just say we want to have a navbar link. So we add our navbar link here. So we want to add our navbar link here. So we say href, and then we say index.html, like that, and then we call it home. I want it to show home when we go to this page. Yeah, so here it shows home. That is our navbar. It's just a temporary one. So let's say we've made these new changes on this branch called feature. So we are on our branch that is called feature. Let's also add something here. Something like that. So we have made some few changes on this branch called feature. Now we want to push these changes, but now you see we had already pushed the changes under main. So here it shows we only have one branch called main and the changes that we had pushed under main. Now we want to push these new changes under this branch called feature. So the way to do this is to say git, the same way you just do the rest. The same way you do the add, the commit, and also you first check what changes you've made. So when we say git status, we've modified the index.html. So we say git add. We're still adding that one file, the index.html. Git commit. We say modified index.html file. Okay, we have modified that file, so we just say that. And now here, instead of saying push, now we are pushing branches. Instead of saying push, we are going to say git push. We are going to use the term origin here. Now we are going to say git push origin, and then we are going to say the name of our branch. Now we are telling it we are pushing, but the content we are pushing is originating from a local branch called feature. So git push space origin space feature. Now this branch that we are pushing from. So we are telling Git that we are pushing our changes, yes, but the origin of these changes is a branch called feature. So git push origin feature. And then it pushes. Now you'll see it will write for you a few things here, and it will tell you something like this. New branch feature. So it has pushed all these changes to this specific branch called feature. If we go back to our GitHub, actually it has already happened. You see, feature had a recent push 3 seconds ago. You see, it shows we have one branch. I don't know if it will show yet that we have 2 branches or we have to merge, but we'll get into that. It's yes, now you see it has loaded. We have 2 branches. It was showing that we have 1 branch, and now that we have pushed the changes, here it shows that we have 2 branches now. So now we have 2 different branches. So when pushing changes from a branch, you say git push origin and then branch name. Branch name. So this is pushing changes from new branch. So this is the command that you will be using, git push. So it's just basically you're pushing the same way you've been pushing, but you're telling Git that the origin of this push or these changes that I'm pushing is this specific branch. So that is what we'll be doing when we say git push origin branch. So far we've seen what a branch is, how to create a new branch, how to switch to that new branch, and we've seen how to push changes from the new branch. We've seen that. Now we want to see how to pull changes from a new branch. Before we merge, we want to see how to pull changes from a new branch. So if you know, pushing and pulling works only from local to remote. So if we are working with a group of people and let's say they have created another branch and they have pushed their changes separate from the changes that we've pushed. And now we want to clone our repository with these changes. And now we've created our repository with these new changes. So we want to update our repository with these new changes. We want to pull whatever they have created. So we'll just come here, see the branch that they have created. Let's say for now, we'll do that example as shortly. So we'll just come, we see they have created a new branch called branch X. So we go to our command line or terminal, we say git pull, the same way as we did before, git pull. Then we are pulling, we say from which origin we are pulling, then the branch name. So this, what this will do is it will pull changes from a different branch. We'll do it practically shortly, but these they're just like opposite. The same way pushing is the opposite of pulling. You're pushing new changes to the cloud repository, and when you're pulling changes from the cloud repository to your local repository. It's the same. That is the opposite. So whatever you did here when pushing the new changes from a new branch, the same way you'll be pulling those changes from this other branch. So up to there, I hope we are okay in terms of creating a new branch, pushing, pulling, and so forth. there are still some few other commands that we were supposed to cover tonight. I want us to also have a look at them. Let me open my terminal. Mhm. So far, we are together.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we, yes. We want to see 3 more commands before we continue back. We come back to pushing and pulling. We want to see 3 more commands. So for instance, locally, I have, if I say git branch, I have how many branches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 branches. I won't be using all these branches. So what if I want to delete a branch? How do I go about deleting a branch? To delete a branch, we use a command called to delete a branch. Delete branch. We use a command called git branch. We say git branch flag D and then the name of this branch. The name of this branch. So this is the command that we use when we want to delete a branch. But for this command is when we want to delete a branch locally. When we want to delete a branch locally, the branch that is on our machine. So for now, on GitHub, we have 2 branches. We have 2 branches, but on our machine, as we've seen, we have 5 different branches. So we want to delete a branch locally. So we use git branch flag D, then branch name. Remember when we were creating, we were saying flag B to create a branch. So now we use flag D to delete a branch. So let's say we want to delete Fix and Bobby. Let's say we say git branch flag D and then the name of the branch that we want to delete. So we want to delete the branch called Fix. So git branch flag D, then the name of the branch that we want to delete. And when you click on enter, it will delete the branch that you want to delete. You can see deleted branch called Fix. So that is how we delete a branch. So that is how we have deleted the branch called Fix by using git branch flag D, then the name of our branch. That is how we've been able to delete this branch called Fix. So if we say git branch now, you can see here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We've been able to delete this branch called Fix. So that is how you delete a branch locally. You use git branch flag D fix. We can repeat it again to delete this branch also. So we say git branch flag D, and then we say the name of the branch we want to delete, like that. And you can see deleted branch, Bobby, and then it will give you the hash of the branch, but that is not important for now. So if we say git branch again, you can see now we have 3 branches instead of the 4 that we have here. So to delete a branch locally, use git branch flag D, then branch name. That will delete your branch locally. We've seen what a branch is, how to create a branch, how to switch the branches. We've also seen pushing and pulling different branches. We've now seen how to delete a branch locally. I want to show us how to delete a branch remotely, and also how to check branches locally, all branches local and remote, and how to check remote branches before we go to other things about merging, and then we conclude. So I want to also create a new branch manually. Let me create a new branch manually. So to do this, you go to your repository. I'm just creating it manually. You will see here there's a button that shows the number of branches that you have. When you click on it, it will show you something similar to this. But at the corner here, there's a green button, which is written new branch. So I want to create a new branch. This is the manual way. I'll call this branch sit, SCITT sit. Then I'm creating this new branch called sit. But before I create it, there's somewhere here they're telling me source. So the source of this branch, I can set it to be main, or I can set it to be feature. Like I said before, we have these branches here. So we have the main branch that we are working on, and we can have other branches here that we are working on different features. Depending on where we are, we can have other branches that we are working on. So this is the main branch. This is feature A, and then this is feature B. So if on the main branch, I am still a bit behind, but on this branch that I'm working on, feature A, I have advanced much further compared to what is on the main branch. I can also still create another branch from this. Instead of creating another branch from the main, I can create from this. So what this means that the changes here will have to be merged to this or to this. But we will see that as we continue. So for now, that is what this source means. It's basically where am I branching from? Where am I creating this branch from? Am I creating this branch from the main branch, or am I creating it from a different branch? It's for our case, let's just create it from the main branch. So I've created a new branch. Now you see we have 3 different branches. If I go back to my repository up here, you will see we have 3 branches now instead of 2. But locally, I don't have this new branch. It is there on the cloud, but I don't have it locally. So before we pull it, the command that I had shown you that I will do the example for before here, I want us to do 2 other commands, or 3, let's say 3. So the first command is git branch flag A. So let's say listing branches. So we have git branch flag A. So what this command does is it lists all branches. It's the same way, like we said here before, git branch lists all branches. But when we use flag A, what it does is it will list all the branches locally plus the branches that are on our remote repository. So it will list all branches locally plus remote. So for now, you see we have a different branch on our remote and the different branches on our local. So if we say git branch space dash A flag A, you will see, so these are the branches that we have locally. We have development, we have feature, we have main. But on our remote, you can see it starts with the remotes. On our remotes, we have the feature and the main. And yeah, we have the feature and the main. The ones that are recognized so far are the feature and the main. It's okay, there's no problem. So, but we have 3 there, but here it shows only 2. We'll see why it shows only 2 shortly. So far we have not pulled, that is why it's only showing 2. So it shows the branches that we have locally and the branches that we have remotely. So when you use git branch flag A, it will show you all the branches that you have locally and remotely. So that is for listing the branches that you have locally and remotely. We have git branch flag R. From the flag R, this basically just means it will list for you the remote branches. Lists all remote branches. So what this will do is it will list all remote branches. If we go back to VS Code and we say git branch flag R, it will list for us our remote branches. And so far it says that we have feature and main as our remote branches. Did it create the third branch? Yeah, it did. Okay, there's no problem. So far it says that we have these 2 as our remote branches. Now, we had said about pooling. Pooling is basically updating what you have on your remote repository to your local repository. So we want to pull the changes that are there on our remote repository to our computer. So we want to use this command that I had shown before, which was the opposite of this one. So we want to say git pull origin, then the branch name we see. So far, what was the name of the new branch? It's called sit. So we want to pull that branch. So we are going to say git pull origin, and then we write the name of that branch that we want to pull. Git pull origin, then sit. And as you can see, when we have pulled, you see from that account, we have pulled a new branch called sit. So when we say, we ran the command before, git branch R, you'll see now it will show you all the 3 branches, because what we have locally and what we have on the remote, they are now in sync. So already up to date, they're now in sync. So if you want to see the remote branches, this is the command that you'll be using, git branch R. If you want to pull from a branch on the remote repository, you'll be using git pull origin sit. Now we saw how to delete a branch locally. We want to see how to delete a branch remotely, and I can see time is running fast. So delete branch on remote. If you want to delete a branch on the remote repository, this is a bit, the command is somehow a bit long. So we'll say git push, then you say origin, then space, dash, dash, delete, then the name, delete, delete, then the name of the branch. Then the name of the branch. So git push origin, delete branch name. This is if you want to delete a branch on GitHub. This is what the command that you'll be using. So I want us to also do it practically. You've seen when we run git branch flag R, as we've seen, it shows all the remote branches. So if we run it, we have 1, 2, 3 remote branches. Let's say we want to delete this branch called sit from our GitHub account. So we say git push, okay, then we say origin, okay, then we say space dash dash delete, then we say the name of this branch. We want to delete a branch called sit, like that. Then you give it some time, and you can see deleted the branch called sit. So if I go to GitHub, here it was telling us that we have 3 branches. Now, if I refresh, because you've deleted that branch, if I refresh, it's supposed to show that we have 2 branches. I have refreshed, and you can see now we have 2 branches instead of 3 because we've been able to delete a remote branch. So those are the commands that I wanted us to cover. Now the last concept, the last 2 concepts, and then we close it. I know it's a lot. I hope we are together. The last 2 concepts. So we've seen how to push branches, how to push the changes we knew we were using git push. We've seen how to push to a specific branch using git push origin, then the name of the branch. We've seen how to use git pull to update. We've seen pulling these branches, how to update your local and your INI. We've seen how to delete the local and to delete the remote branch. Now we want to see the final concept in terms of Git branches. It's called Git merging and resolving conflicts. So Git status. Okay. I want to show you something first. You remember we are in a branch called feature, as you can see down here at the corner. We're in this branch called feature. So in this branch called feature, we added this navbar called home, and we added this line for our footer. I hope you can remember us doing that. We added the navbar and our footer and the line down there, right? But these changes, okay, so these changes, we push them to GitHub. So we want to go back to our main branch. You've seen the difference. This is what we have on our feature branch. Now let us go back to our main branch. You remember the commands for switching our branches? Git, because of time. Okay, thank you. Git switch main. We want to go back to main. So we've switched back to main. And when we go to main, you see this is what we have here. We don't have the, if I go live for this one, for it's the same in the same HTML. We don't have the navbar up here, and we don't have that line here. That is the essence, actually, of what we are learning today, of this branching. The changes that you have won't affect the main branch. So this is the main branch. Let's say up to here, I was okay with it. I didn't want to make any changes, but I wanted to experiment like I've done on the feature branch. So that is the essence of having branches. The changes are on that branch. They are not on this main branch here, as we've seen. If I switch again to the feature branch, you can see git switch to feature. Yeah. Okay. You can see we have the changes here. We have the navbar, and we have the line that we added at our footer. They are different. I hope you've been able to see that different. So we want to merge. So let's first switch back to main. I want to show you this concept called merging. So git branch, we see which branch we are in. We are in the main branch. Okay, that is the first step. We see which branch you are in. So we are in the main branch. Now we want to merge the changes. We want to merge the changes that we have on our feature branch. We want to merge them to our main branch. So we want the changes that we had. Okay. We want the changes that we had. So So this was our main branch. We created a branch which we called feature, and we added some new things here as we've seen so far. So this is our main branch. This is our feature branch. Now we want this thing to come back here so that what we have on our main branch is the same as what we have on our feature branch. That is what we mean by merging. We want to connect these two branches to be one branch. If you remember the images that I had shown before, I had not shown them. I had shown this one. Okay, so let me show you another image. Here it is. Okay, so we've seen we have the main or the master depending on what cloud repository you're working on. But for GitHub and most of them, it will be main. So this is our main branch, and we can create branches. So let's say this is the branch we created for Tech Titans, and then they worked on whatever they were working on, and now these changes, we want them to be part of the main branch. So we come back and merge. So you see, like you see this line comes, it separates, then it comes back and merges. Now it becomes one with this. So that is what merging is. It's linking our work back to the main branch. So that's what we want to do, to merge our changes back to our main branch. So what command we will use here? We will use, first of all, to merge, you need to switch to the branch that is you want to merge from to. Upon our confused kiasi. Let me go back to my drawing. We are on the main, okay, so this is the main branch and this is the, so this is the main branch, right? This is the main branch, right? And then we created another branch here. This is the feature branch, right? For us to merge these changes here, we have to switch to this because this one is what is behind. Okay, so we have to switch to this. That's what we've done first. We've switched to our main branch. That's what we were doing because the feature branch is what is ahead. Now we switch back to the branch that is behind, which we've done. Now we want to merge. We use the command git merge. And then we write the name of the branch we want to merge our changes from. So we want to merge from feature. So git merge feature, like that. And then you'll see updating, fast forward, index.html. It has 3 new additions and 3 new changes. Basically, this is what this means. So you'll see one file has been changed. There are 2 insertions and 1 deletion. So those are the differences that were there between the 2 files. So what we changed 3 lines of code. In these 3 lines of code, we added 2 lines and we deleted 1. So that's what it means. So we've merged. So what we have on our main branch is what we have on our feature branch. If we say git status now, you can see nothing to commit. It's all clean because what we have there is the same as what we have here. What we have on that is what we have here. Okay, so that is what merging means. So you use the command git merge, and then you say where the changes you want. First of all, before you merge, you check out to the branch you want to merge. You check out first whatever branch you want to merge. And then you merge these changes by saying git merge, then branch. This is for the branch that has the changes. So this branch here is the branch that has the changes. And this is the branch with the changes. I hope I'm not confusing you. But so this is the command that we use when we are merging git merge branch name. So we'll be using git merge and then branch name. That is the first way to merge. The second way to merge is by use of GitHub itself. So when we push the changes, you saw this come up here. I know you're able to notice this come up here. So what this tells you is that this branch called feature has recent changes that have been pushed to it. And there's a button here that it is telling you compare and pull and create a pull request. So what this will do is it will compare the main branch and this other branch and see the changes that are there. And then it will ask you to merge. If there are conflicts, it will tell you. So let's click on compare and pull request. So it is, you see up here, it is telling you checking merging capability. It is telling you it is able to merge. So these files can be merged. So I can merge whatever is on the features to the main, like what we've done on the local. I can do it to the remote. Okay, so these are the changes that I have. I added this, I removed this, I added this. So these are the two pluses that we are seeing and the one minus. So this is what it is telling you: 2 additions, 1 deletion, essentially. So I can create a, it is able to merge without any conflict. So I can create a pull request. And then I can merge my changes here, checking ability to merge. Then I can merge this pull request. Merge, confirm merge. And then pull request successfully merged and closed. So now whatever I have on my remote repository, on my feature, is what I have on my main. As you can see, merged from feature. So the changes that were on feature are now on main. Even though I did not push to main, I pushed to feature. But by using the GitHub merge feature, I've been able to do that. So those are the 2 ways to merge. There are others, but for now, let us focus on that. There are other things that I wanted to mention, but I'm seeing time is not on our side. So I'll just mention one. I'll leave the rest for the other one for some other time. We have what is called merge conflicts. It's not always that we are going to be able to merge our documents successfully. Okay, sometimes, as we've seen, we are working with Git differently. So let's say I had pulled my changes from here. I'd worked on them, and someone else had also done the same. They had pulled their changes from here and they were working on them, but they were faster than me. So the changes that they were working on, they matched them to the main branch before I was able to merge mine. So when I go to merge my changes, I will experience what is called a merge conflict. This means that I cannot mix whatever I've worked on with the main branch because the same lines have been modified in the different branches. Essentially, yeah, something like that. So it means I cannot mix my work with this because this person has already mixed their work, and what I have worked on, they've also worked on. And maybe they have worked on it differently because, you know, there are many ways to kill a rat. So maybe they have worked on it a little bit different from the way I've worked on it. So I'll not be able to merge my changes, but we'll be able to see that about merge conflicts and so forth. But for now, I want us to have these commands at the back of our minds. These are the commands that we've worked on today. Listing all the branches, creating a new branch, switching to the branches, and then a summary of both, creating the branch and switching to that branch by using these commands. We've seen how to push the changes from a specific branch to the remote repository. We've also seen how to pull changes from a specific branch from the remote repository to the local repository. We've seen how to delete branches locally. We've also seen how to delete branches on the remote repository. We've seen how to list branches, both remote and both local, both remote and local. We've also seen how to only list remote branches. We've seen how to merge the changes from one branch to another by using the terminal and also by using GitHub itself. There are many other things that we could go on and on about, but over time we will be able to have a look at that. And these commands are many, so you need to practice. You need to do these things by yourself. Practice until you get a hold of them. Experiment with them. Make some changes, create different branches until you are able to have at least this or even the basics alone at your fingertips. And over time, you will be able to get to have them by your fingertips. We will see how to resolve conflicts as we continue, and about reverting, resetting, and GitHub workflows. We'll also see about the rest stashing, rebasing, and so forth. You can always reference on the cheat sheet. It will always have whatever you need. For now, there's also something I wanted to mention. When we were installing Git, there was this that came with Git. It's called Git GUI, Git Graphical User Interface. So it has some of these commands in a simpler form, but you have to. It also has its own learning curve for you to know how to use it. If you are someone who likes to experiment, you can search it and work with it. Use YouTube and see how to work with it. We also have a GitHub desktop. We also have something called GitHub desktop. It simplifies these things. It simplifies this thing of these commands, but it's a graphical user interface. So it also has its own learning curve. I'd advise you know the commands because it's easier and they are universal. But if you're having a difficult time, you can work with the GitHub desktop or the Git Bash GUI. Both of them, they'll make life a bit simpler for you as you readjust to working with the command. But the command, if you grasp the first few, you will be okay. So for today, that is where I'll stop unless there's any question or any issue.